She was in a coma, but also very much awake, as she was flying like Superman through the galaxies and the stars. I'm Beth Ann Campbell, and this is Something Weird Happened Here. Welcome to Something Weird Happened Here, the podcast for people who love a twisted tale, but aren't afraid to poke at it a bit. We share stories that are postmarked peculiar and then explore the story with curiosity and an open mind. Stay tuned after the show to find out how to submit your strange saga, and maybe we or you will share it on air. Now let's get started, because no matter where you are in this mysterious world, something weird happened here. This tale is postmarked Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Subject line, I was flying through the universe and other dimensions during my coma. Today we're going to be talking about astral projection, psychic connections, and lots more with my guest, Vandana Puranik. Let me formally welcome you to Something Weird Happened Here. This is a podcast for people who love a twisted tale, but aren't afraid to, be curious. And you have a couple of tales. In fact, you mentioned earlier when we were talking Duke University, and I think we were on the other
Yeah,
podcast that the Thirsty
yeah,
Professional, and I think I said something like I wanted to major in parapsychology at Duke University back when they had a parapsychology. And you said, oh, by the way, you, I don't want to use the word subject, but you were kind of studied
yeah,
in a was this at Duke that you were studied?
yeah, yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about why, like what were you doing that would had prompted somebody to say, you know what, we should go and take a look at her?
Yeah. So there is some sort of a interesting connection between my great grandfather, his son, who's my grandfather, his daughter, who's my mom, and then me. And it goes to one of my kids as well. But it's very, very oddly connected, and there are things that we know about each other that we really shouldn't know about each other. Or there's things that, for example, when I was 11, I was living in India on my own, like just with my grandparents, and my grandfather was 65, and he said to me, he's like, come into the room, because he had just come back from the hospital. He was, and he was fine. He was like not in imminent danger. So he says, come sit on my legs because it feels good when I have weight on my legs. So I said, okay. He's like, I just want you to know that I'm leaving. And I said, well, where are you going? As a kid, I was like, you can't really go anywhere. You're in bed. And he's like, I'm going to God's house. Like I'm going. He's like, but you have to promise me that you're not going to tell anyone, especially your grandmother. And so the next 2 weeks, all I could think about was what he said to me, and he's going to die, he's going to die, he's going to die. And he died. And I have to this day, I still am trying to figure out why he told me and
Yeah, I was
nobody
just gonna
else.
say, why do you think, what goes through your head when you try to figure that out? Like, why do you think he told you?
I think, well, like I said, there's some sort of a connection between like the family, and I don't know, Beth. I've been trying to figure this out. And what would make somebody who is 65, been to the hospital, know or feels very strongly that they're going to die, and then all of a sudden they do, and but they've told an 11-year-old.
Yeah, I've heard sometimes that people know when they're going to die, but it's usually not 2 weeks out. It's usually like, in the moments before or that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
no,
But why would you tell your grandchild unless there was
I
some meaning to that or message to that?
yeah, and I mean, I've talked to my mom about it too because I've always tried to figure it out, and everybody's like, but somewhere along the line it'll become clear.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. And even like my daughter, my youngest daughter, had asked my mom before she passed away, like years before she passed away. They called her Gigi. So Gigi, when are you going to die? And she said, you know what? I'm not going to die until you tell me it's okay to go. And so she was in the hospital. She absolutely refused to die. She had vascular dementia, but she really died because of negligence. And she kept hanging on and hanging on. And every time my mom would go into the hospital, Mira, my daughter, would say, she's not going to die. She's not going to die. I'm telling you, she's not going to die. Like, okay, like she seemed very, very, committed to that answer. So I said, okay. And this time, the last night we were with her, it was me and my two daughters. And I said, good night. And my oldest daughter said goodnight. Her name is Janaki. Janaki said goodnight. And Mira, said goodnight to her and just whispered in her ear. And all I wanted for my mom is to get out into the sun. I just wanted to get her out of the hospital into the sun because it's her thing. So she died at 7 o'clock the next morning with the sunrise, and it was her birthday, and that is considered super auspicious, right? Like when
Yeah.
that happens. I mean, I didn't know that. I'm like, so coincidental, but wow. And then I said to Mira, I said, "What did you whisper in her ear?" And she's like, "I told her it was okay for her to go."
Oh,
And she went, and it was like, so there's like these connections, and like you're like, this is weird. Like there's a lot of weird things like that.
yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people could pick that out, but what happened was, um, as soon as my grandfather passed away, I was thinking like I willed him to die.
Oh,
Like I
yeah.
thought it was,
Your
I
fault?
should have told someone like that, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But I gave him my word, and there was a purpose for that, and he needed to go. And I think maybe he told me because he wanted to tell someone, but he didn't want anybody to stop him from going.
Oh,
Maybe it was that. But then I started to think, I was thinking how lucky it was that I had four grandparents and he was the first to go. And then weird things happened where every time I would feel lucky about something, it would be taken away from me.
mm,
So I don't use the word lucky ever. I can be grateful, but I won't be lucky. And so I'm like, that just will not be part of my vocabulary ever. And then what started to happen was somebody who I had never met, she joined the school, and for whatever reason, I started to get visions, and I got visions of her. And the first vision I got was of a car. I guessed the make of her car because I saw it, and then I guessed the color, and I guessed the year. I saw it in like almost like a late day sun, kind of sitting somewhere. And that started to happen. Then I would start to, um, figure out what was going to play on the radio. I would tell when certain people were going to call. I was getting so it was like clearly some sort of a sixth sense. There was a lot of that kind of stuff happening. And so when I went to Duke, because this was the end of high school, and so when I went to Duke, I thought I wonder if I should talk to somebody.
yeah.
So that's how I ended up at the Department of Parapsychology. And they were like, okay, let's get you into some tests. And the test scared me so much that I said, I'm going to stop. So I put basically a wall between me and my perceptions.
Are you
And
able to
I
talk
just
at
stopped it.
all about how they were testing you? Or,
Yeah, I mean, it's all like experiences. It's not, there's nobody like testing your math skills or something like that. They would make the room really like dark red, and they would put like half ping pong balls on my eyes, like half like cut ping pong balls. And then they would take them on or take them off, and it's like, okay, tell us what you see. Like that
it's like
kind of stuff.
Clockwork Orange weird stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm thinking, what is this supposed to be doing? Because
Yeah.
I'm not feeling anything. I think I was just like so scared of having any kind of knowledge. Sometimes
Yeah.
knowledge is power, and sometimes it isn't. Like
Yeah.
too much information is a bad thing. So so it
Well, you
depends on
could
how
have
you look at it.
logically also been thinking, well, if I see something, I'm going to have to do this more, and it's not a
Yeah,
fun
I
thing
did
to be
not want
doing.
it. It was a very, very uncomfortable
Mm.
experience. And I did it for a little bit, and then I said, I'm not doing this again. I can't, I'm not coming back. And I shut everything down. But you can't completely shut everything down. Like even today, I get vibes very easily. I get vibes about people. And people say oh, everybody gets vibes. No, I get very strong,
Yeah.
um, strong feelings. I also have the ability, and I don't know why this is, to jump out of my body and go sit in a corner and just be
Like
watching everything.
almost like astral projecting.
Yeah, this is like me being able to come. God, I'm looking at you, I'm talking to you, and I'm telling myself right now, and I'm starting to move out of my body that whatever is happening is not real. This is nothing. None of this is real. So now I've come out, and then what happens is you see everything as like a movie. So you know how they say it's like life is like a just
Yeah.
a movie that you're watching, and it really is.
So it's
Like
like you're
it's
watching
like that.
yourself
Yeah,
from
going
a,
through the motions.
yeah.
Yeah, from an outside distance. Yeah,
What do you think that that is? I mean, there's a bazillion things that could go through my head. True astral projection,
yeah,
multiverse, vortex, portals, in and out, whatever. What do you, or some people would say imagination or whatever. What do you think?
yeah.
What do you think
It's
it?
not
What do you think?
imagination. I'm really imaginative, and that's not
Yeah,
imagination. To me, imagination is about creativity more
yeah,
than anything else.
yeah,
But this is, I think, one of the things that I've been told by people. Like my mom was very spiritually inclined, as an example. She was a guru for a lot of people. So I put a lot of faith in what she said, and she's like, she was astounded that I could do that. That is so high from a spiritual standpoint of what you are achieving, that she was just in awe at that. And
yeah.
she's like,
I'm in awe of that.
yeah, and then another friend of mine who's very much into the spiritual side said the exact same thing. She's like, "Do you realize how incredible that you are? So far advanced than anybody else that I know." I take it with a grain of salt because I mean, who really knows, right? And we
Right.
the other thing that happened that was really interesting is that so I have breast cancer and I'm fighting that fight. And at 2.5 years ago when I first got diagnosed, 6 months prior to that diagnosis, I felt a darkness coming at me. It was very, very dark.
Yeah,
Very,
tell me what when you say you felt a darkness, that's like just a general ongoing feeling? Was it a
yeah.
specific? Okay,
No, it wasn't specific in terms of a time. It was just this constant sort of darkness.
interesting.
And it was coming at me. And I think that's probably when my cancer was growing because it was a pretty fast growing cancer,
Yeah.
or it is. And, but the cool thing about fast growing is it's also very quick to respond to drugs. So
Yay.
it's actually, you know, blessing, I
Yeah,
suppose.
mixed blessing.
And even when my mom was going to die, I was okay with it. Never cried because my attitude was if I'm crying, it's for me. But if I'm really thinking about her, it's exactly what she wanted. She wanted to go. She told me 2 years before she's kind of like, I'm kind of done. I've kind of done what I needed to do in this world, and I'm ready to go. And so when she was going to die, I felt the darkness coming at me too. So I trust my instincts a
Yeah.
lot. And sometimes it's scary because you think, no, this couldn't be true. You know, no, I don't want to overthink it. No, I don't want to assume anything. Like I'm also very good at playing devil's advocate, but if I feel what I feel, and so that diagnosis when it came, I had absolutely no doubts that it was cancer. When we were waiting for the final verdict, like after the biopsies and everything.
Yeah. Well,
So,
to your point too, I think that, and I had this conversation with another guest on this podcast, Dan Mott, about how much we experience based on our receptivity and our
mm,
openness to receive. Because I've joked a lot about I was a paranormal investigator for 10 years, dozens and dozens of haunted houses. Never experienced anything. Experienced some weird psychic stuff from we had a woman on a team who was a sensitive, but personally never was blown away by full body specter, ghost, apparition, anything like that, and really very little anything that we caught would in my mind possible but not conclusive. But yet
yeah,
I've known other people, even in talking to this other people talking to you, I wonder if it's because I just wasn't really receptive. I was very skeptical and probably still am, although I would love to be more. And I think there are ways to that you can be more receptive,
hmm
but I wonder if there's an aspect to that of because you have just accepted this really since a young age you've been having this stuff. So
like I remember even when I was probably like two, three, not two, like 3, 4 years old. I remember seeing, like, I was in bed with my mom and dad, because I had a nightmare or something, and I snuggled with my mom. And then I turned over and I looked and I saw like a white movement going across the bottom of the bed. Like, it's so striking. I'll never forget that. I was only 4 years old, but I will never, ever forget that.
I will say that the only thing that I have ever experienced where I think to myself, that's weird, has to do
Yeah.
with my dogs. So I have,
Interesting.
yeah, I was very, very close. You know, I don't have any kids of my own. I had two dogs that both of them we lost during the pandemic, older dogs at the time. But one instance was my lab who passed away. Her name was Ripley. Ripley used to sniff along the bottom of the bathroom door very distinctly. My other dog never did it. My current dog never does it. But she would sniff along the bottom if I would go into the bathroom without her. You know, dogs like to go into the bathroom with their, usually their
Yeah.
moms. But
Even cats do, by the way.
yeah, and cats, right. But she would sniff like, okay, mom went in there, I'm gonna sniff along the bottom. And for, maybe 10 seconds, I would hear this every time I go in there and shut the door, sniff, sniff, sniff. After she passed away, a couple of times I heard that very distinct sniffing, and it was like, that is not anything but her sniffing. There is nothing. And even now, and I know, again, my logical brain says it's probably just like early sleep paralysis or whatever, but sometimes when but I'm not even close to being asleep, but sometimes when I get into bed and I get in before my husband, he stays up later. So it's just me, the lights are out, and it will feel like my dog just jumped on the bed. And
Oh,
she
wow.
doesn't do
I've
that.
had that too. I've had
Yeah.
that too.
And I just say to myself, sometimes I say out loud, hi Ripley, hi Sammy. Those are my two dogs that passed away because that's what it feels like. I know it's not my dog. So I've turned on the light, I've shined my light, and there's nobody there, but I very distinctly feel, and it used to freak the shit out of me. And now I just accept it as, I think this is just my dogs hopping up on the bed for a little visit. Maybe it's,
You know,
maybe it's just nothing, but
it makes me think of you were talking about being in bed, and the other day I was lying in bed, and we have a chandelier in our room. It's not anything special. It's just whatever, a very simple chandelier, but crystals and all that kind of
yeah.
stuff. And I made it move, and I thought, I'm making this thing rock, and I don't know how I'm doing that. Like
Yeah.
it was just going like this. And then I took off my glasses, and then I looked away, and I looked again, and there was nothing. And then I did it again, and it was like, what is happening here? You know, or there's times where I've known I was sitting on a patio, and there's a light fixture above, and I could sense that it was going to fall out of nowhere. Like it wasn't like there wasn't any noise or looseness or whatever. Nobody had said anything, and sure enough, I ran out from under it, and it crashed.
Wow.
And so, like, there's just so many weird things like that,
Yeah.
that have happened. Um, but I guess the most striking for me most recently, not that those aren't striking, because when it happens, you're like, I think, to your point, I was just going to say that I think being receptive is a really good word. It's also being okay with vulnerability,
Yeah, it
you
is.
know, um,
Yeah.
because you're letting yourself go, right? Like when I tell you I can pull myself out, I can do it like this, right? That is to me not feeling any hesitation with doing that,
Yeah.
right? It's letting myself be vulnerable in terms of who I am here
Yeah.
and just watching myself,
Yeah.
and seeing what's happening. But anyway, crazy stuff. But I think the most dramatic one is what happened not that long ago, which was um, so with my breast cancer, I was going through chemo, and my last chemo, my blood pressure was down to like 88 over 57. Like it was
Mm.
pretty dangerously low. But we went ahead with chemo anyway. And I thought, okay, this is the last one. So, after this, once I recover in 3 weeks, then I'm done with chemo. Then I won't have to feel like this horrible ever again. Well, what happened was I had cracked teeth, and one of them got infected. And
Oh.
and when you're going through chemo and all that, you can't have dental surgery and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So you just have to wait it out. And and so I went into the hospital. By the time we got to the hospital, I wasn't able to take 2 steps up a ramp. Like I like they needed to get a wheelchair. I couldn't. I was just almost toast. 7.5 hours later is when I was seen, and which is the case with a lot of
Wow.
emergency rooms, I will say. especially if you're in a big city, it's an
Yeah.
inner city hospital. Like, and, I mean, of course, we have tons of hospitals here. But so I go in, and as soon as the head of the emergency department sees me and talks to me, he's like, things start to move like lightning. And they get a bed out of nowhere because I didn't even have a bed or anything. I was just sitting in a wheelchair. I could hardly walk. I was, like they started to put in IVs and started giving me antibiotics, and and last thing I remember is they tried to put a gas mask on me for oxygen, but because I couldn't breathe very well to begin with,
Oh, wow.
because that was part of the side effects of chemo, I threw it off, and like it felt like they were suffocating me, and I thrashed and threw it off, and that's the last thing I remember. I have like little specks of memories of, but it's the more striking stuff that I remember. And this is a classic case of, where you solve the problem, but you don't solve for the outcome.
Yeah.
And you have to solve for the problem at times, right? Like you have to put a stop to the infection, otherwise there wouldn't be me left.
Yeah.
And so they stopped the problem, which was awesome, but they hadn't really solved for the outcome, which is like what was really going on with me. And so I ended up getting sicker, and I got worse and worse, and to the point where they had no option but to put me in ICU. So I went into ICU, and I was in a coma
That was
for two
induced.
weeks. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was induced,
Yeah.
but you don't really have a choice. And thank God it was induced because they could control things.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, and when I say coma, I was intubated. I was on a ventilator. I had my hands were tied to the railings. My eyes were taped shut. My feet were bandaged. I had
Why do they do that? Just curiosity. Why do they tie?
yeah. So the my hands are tied so I wouldn't let go and pull something out.
Okay, gotcha.
My eyes were taped shut because they had paralyzed me,
Yeah.
and your eyes can stay open. And my feet were bandaged because like you can kick the railings and stuff too,
Ah,
right?
yes,
So
makes
just to
sense.
keep you safe,
Yeah.
basically. And then I had about 10 IVs and feeding tubes and all kinds of stuff, but 10 IVs going from my neck all the way down to my wrist. And it's really interesting because, first of all, this is going to sound really dumb, but I find this whole thing really fascinating because, because I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Um, but when you have IVs, it's like a backup to a backup to a backup, because you can never not have access to the bloodstream, right?
Yeah.
And what was really interesting is just before all this happened, I had my PICC line taken out. So, which is goes from your arm or wherever it is. Sometimes you get an actual port, and it goes very close to your blood flow, which is your
Yeah.
heart. And it's like the string is like this long, and you're like, how the heck did they get that in my vein? But anyway, so I had that all that was gone, so they didn't have access to anything like that. But it was, I mean, I had monitors and like it was crazy. My fingers looked like cucumbers, like they were so
Oh
swollen.
man.
You know, I didn't feel anything. I was good.
We've talked about the anesthesia sleep, so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I love it. It's so
Yeah, it's
good.
so good.
I love
Oh,
going under. I've had surgery a couple times, and it's like, it just, oh my God, hit
it
me. I love
almost
it.
makes me want to have another colonoscopy more than
Yeah,
10 years from when they because it was so good. But anyway,
oh, it was
continue.
so good.
So you're in a coma and you're
So
hooked
I'm in
up.
a coma, and I'm hooked up, and of course, I don't know anything, right?
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I am like flying all over the place. Like in my whatever in my state, I was going to different realms and different dimensions, and it was like Superman going through very dark but really starry, very colorful galaxies. And I'm just flying around. I can still like feel the wind on my face. I say that all the time because it was such a strong connection. I was ending up in places that you never thought like could actually be done, like but that are all humanly possible. They're just not done yet. It was all discovery. It was all about discovery. I never felt death or anything like that. Um, so it was like all these really cool ideas and all these things like coming to me. And for example, one of the ideas, I really have to talk to Richard Branson, by the way. So if you can if you can put a good word for me, I'd appreciate it.
We'll
Whoever's
we'll we'll
listening.
tag him in this.
Yeah. And I was at a dinner party, and I was just watching, just like I would watch myself if I pull myself out. Same thing. I was watching. So I wasn't really part of the dinner party. Beautifully dressed women. Didn't really see a lot of like the dresses and outfits of men, but it was very like it was a cocktail party. People were drinking, and everybody was only talking to one person. It wasn't like groups of people talking. It was always like one on one. It's in this oval shape or this oblong shape, and they're all around the outside, and the kitchen is in the middle.
What?
Open kitchen. Yeah. So the kitchen is in the middle. They're on the and it's open. It's open air. And then I pull back, and it turns out it's in the crater of a volcano. Like
What?
it was, yeah, like I mean, like not an active volcano, obviously, but it's like
Yeah.
it's in the crater of a volcano. And I mean, talk when you talk about experience and you want to give people an experience, imagine if you got to do something like that, right?
That
Whether
puts a whole
you're
different spin on it, really, though, for me, because when you're saying, "Oh, it's okay, I'm having this experience where I'm flying around and I'm at this table," but then when you say it's in a, and that's like vision. What does this all mean? Why are is it mostly women? What's this discovery? But then when
yeah.
you say it's in a volcano, I immediately think like divine, like divinity, like gods, or
Oh,
something
it's earth
more,
spring. Yeah.
something at a higher
At a
meaning
higher
than,
frequency,
yeah,
yeah, higher level. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. But I totally see that, especially given everything we just talked about, right?
yeah, fascinating. So why do you think, or maybe the better question is what do you think was, do you think that it was like your energy, your essence, your soul? I mean, what do you think when you think of this experience where you had these very vivid visions or experiences flying through the universe and the colors and the people in the volcano? What do
Yeah.
you think when you try to, or do you not try to reconcile it? If you try to reconcile it, what do you think is going on here? Is that energy?
I
Is
think
it?
I definitely think there is some sort of a force. I also have a very strong sense of faith, and I don't mean religious faith. I mean like faith in the universe, faith in us, faith in the fact that everything is going to be okay and it's going to
Yeah,
be the way it's supposed to be, and I
yeah,
don't need to worry about it.
yeah,
Um, and letting go, I think, is really really a fascinating thing. 6 months before we're born and 6 months after, the natural like reflex is to grasp, right?
yeah.
So we're always grasping. That's our reflex. But letting go is a learned behavior. So it's pretty profound, right? Like when you think about it. And for me, I think a lot of it is just letting go. I've learned to let go a lot.
Yeah.
I don't hold anger. I don't hold grudges. And so I'm always searching. I'm always trying to discover. I'm always looking for creative ideas, always.
Well, Wandana, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you so much for being a part of Something Weird Happened Here. I so appreciate you, and I just love your stories,
Oh,
and I love your vibe and your essence. And
thank you.
we've done more and more things together, and I look forward to doing more. So, thanks for joining this episode of Something Weird Happened Here. If you have a twisted tale that you witnessed, experienced, or heard from a reliable source, go to bethancampbell.com/somethingweird to learn more and submit your story. If your tale is twisted enough, we'll share it on air during one of our episodes and might even invite you to be a guest on the show. And we're not picky. Your Something Weird Happened Here could be paranormal, psychic, UFOs, near-death experiences, dreams, parallel dimensions, Bigfoot, chupacabra, or any other weird and unexplained phenomena. We don't discriminate. If you're into paranormal mysteries that are scary, fun, and realistic, pick up a copy of my latest book, The R.I.P. Files: Case of the Demon Drums, the first in a series inspired by real cases that I, Bethann Campbell, worked on when I was a ghost hunter for nearly a decade. Case of the Demon Drums is available on Amazon and most online bookstores. And finally, we would so appreciate it if you would rate and review us on your favorite streaming platform and/or on YouTube. Thanks again, and remember, stay skeptical, but don't run towards the noise.